Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to another instalment of Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there. It has been very wet and windy here in the UK overnight, but the weather is looking much better this morning, which is nice. It is also my birthday this weekend. So there you go, doxing myself just a little bit there. Wish me a happy birthday down in the comments if you want. Or if you hate my guts, wish me an unhappy birthday. Either way, I'm just glad of the attention. Anyway, a bit of an update on a story that I mentioned last week. Because, coincidentally, as you probably know, I am based kind of right in the heart of the country in Leamington Spa in Warwickshire here nowadays. And that is the heart of the British gaming industry. And I have talked a little bit about trying to connect with some people within that industry and, maybe get some interviews and stuff on the go. And it just so happens that last weekend I was talking to someone. I was actually, it was a social occasion, and I was talking to someone in the industry. He works for a first-party Microsoft studio that you will have heard of. He is very high up in that studio, and he is currently working on a game series that you also more than likely will have heard of. So we didn't talk work all that much. But over the course of the night, one topic did come up, which was this new Xbox thing that was announced last week, this Project Helix. Of course, we've had this weird logo reveal thing on Twitter, and we've also had a bit of of course, there's been a bit of a management shake-up and stuff at Xbox, as we know, and they've basically said that this is going to be the next generation of Xbox, and it's going to be running its own kind of proprietary Xbox games, and it's also going to run PC games as well. So I thought, as someone who had his finger on the pulse, who was very kind of close to the action, that he might know something about it, and I might be able to tease some information out of him. And he told me that basically, he's been working with Microsoft for years and years now and has had access to all of the early dev kits, all of the early specs, of course, very heavy NDAs on all sorts of stuff. And mentioned that this is actually the first time in Xbox history that something's been announced to the public that they know absolutely nothing about. They don't know anything more than we do. So there you go. Not really news, but I thought that was quite interesting, actually. And yeah, of course, naming no names or anything, but it just kind of adds to the mystery of this whole thing. I mean, I've been out of touch with the Xbox world for quite a while now. I had the original Xbox, and then I had the 360, and then, of course, I went back onto PC. And it's something I like to kind of keep up to date with and just kind of keep an eye on. But, yeah, the mystery around Project Helix continues. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of the stories for this week, and perhaps not continue to ponder on things upon which we have no information. But first, let's take a moment just to thank our sponsor, PCBWay.com. Now, of course, PCBWay has 11 years' worth of experience in the industry of PCB fabrication and has been serving and supporting this community of electronics makers for all that time, and are indeed a very well-known name in this space. And for very good reason. They have an excellent reputation for quality, fast turnarounds, and excellent customer service. And they have asked me to let you know today, if you aren't aware already, which you probably are if you're a regular listener, but they also, of course, offer some additional services above and beyond their PCB fabrication offering. So they are nowadays offering stuff like 3D printing, CNC machining, injection molding, and sheet metal fabrication. And they can basically fabricate your entire project from start to finish. And, of course, do it in their usual fast and high-quality manner. So, if you are interested in any of that for your current project, or indeed anything you might have planned in the future, please do check out the link to PCBWay.com down in the description. And once more, big thank you to PCBWay for all of your support for Reese Rambles, and indeed my main channel, Control-Alt-Reese. So, the revival of the Commodore brand is very much a talking point at the moment in the retro community, and has been, probably for the past year or so. It's certainly something that I've been covering quite a lot here on Reese Rambles, and with good reason. It has a very passionate and outspoken figurehead and frontman in the shape of Perry Fractic, of course, Christian, who is a British tech YouTuber living in LA and living a very glamorous lifestyle. He was also in Star Wars, don't you know? He does mention that occasionally, and he has proven to be a very kind of passionate supporter of the brand, and has given it a bit of a kick up the bottom, which is always good to see. I know I'm an Atari fan. I know I'm on the other side of the fence. But hey, always great to see these things, being brought back for the community. And there has also been a fair bit of controversy and stuff around it as well, which I have also reported on. There's another company claiming that they own the Commodore brand and, trying to, both at each other's throats, trying to sue each other. And it's all been very entertaining to watch from the outside. But I'm not here to talk about controversy and drama today. Thankfully, I am actually talking about something that does have a bit of an Xbox connection, oddly enough, although I promise this isn't specifically an Xbox podcast. That's just the luck of the draw sometimes. No, if you have been keeping up with the new Commodore, yeah, very good, you will know that they have actually appointed some very big names from within the industry, specifically people from Commodore's past, of course. I'm not going to start naming those people because, quite frankly, I can't remember who most of them are. But yeah, they do have a surprising number of people kind of, listed on their website as advisors and also kind of very directly involved with the running of the business, which, of course, again, is really great to see. But this piece of news this week is very big indeed, I think, because this is Larry Hyrb, aka MajorNelson. And if you were, an Xbox person back right at the very beginning in the kind of OG days, it's a name with which you will be very familiar. Of course, he was, I tell you what, let's read the press release here over on Commodore.net. So, Larry Hyrb joins Commodore to help shape the future of its global community. Former Xbox community builder MajorNelson to serve as advisor. Commodore today announced that games industry icon Larry Hyrb has joined the company as a community development advisor, where he will help support and expand the global community surrounding the iconic Commodore brand. For decades, fans continued to preserve its legacy by organising events, building new hardware and software projects, and keeping the spirit of Commodore alive. As the brand looks towards its next chapter, Hyrb will help the community strengthen those existing relationships while helping introduce Commodore to a new generation of creators, developers, and enthusiasts. Is this a quote? Oh, it's a quote from Perry Fractic himself. Through blogs, podcasts, social media, and events, Larry pioneered direct communication with players long before that kind of engagement became standard across the industry, said Perry Fractic, Commodore's president and CEO. Bringing Larry in to help support continued engagement with the fans that kept Commodore alive while also welcoming a new generation of fans is a natural next step for us in rebooting the brand. Widely known for his work as MajorNelson, where he spent more than 2 decades helping shape the relationship between players and the Xbox platform, Hyrb quickly emerged as one of the most recognisable voices in gaming and community development. As community development advisor at Commodore, Hyrb will help guide initiatives on community engagement strategies, events, developer outreach, and programs that connect Commodore's legacy with modern technology and creativity. I've always believed the best thing a company can do is partner with its community, and with a passionate fanbase carrying the torch for 31 years, Commodore's situation is truly unique when it comes to community engagement, said Hyrb. The community didn't wait around. Instead, they built something remarkable. Players, hardware hobbyists, developers, content creators, and publishers are all a part of the Commodore community, and now we get to build what's next together. And it just goes on to say that they are going to be sharing additional details in the coming weeks and days over on their social platforms. So they're on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, there's their website as well at Commodore.net. So quite a big hiring there, I think. MajorNelson, of course, a huge name in the gaming industry, acting as a community advisor for Commodore, community outreach. I think actually the new Commodore has done quite a good job of communicating stuff and staying in touch with its community. And it's interesting to see it kind of going from strength to strength. I do wonder what's next. Of course, they did do the new Commodore 64 project, and that went down very well indeed, as I reported at the time. It was a bit of a crowdfunder type thing. It was based on some kind of existing hardware projects that were already out there and already doing very well in the community. They brought it all together into one product and kind of sold it as this offering. And from what I've been hearing, it's actually gone down very well indeed. So, yeah, good to see. Well done, Commodore. Well done, Perry Fractic. A good hiring there. And we'll have to see what comes of all of this. From Commodore to Sinclair next, of course, perhaps known as one of their biggest rivals, at least here in the UK, although I think it is fair to say that Sinclair was relatively unknown outside of the UK. I know there was the Timex Sinclair in America, but didn't really get a foothold. I think the Commodore 64 and the Atari 8-bits were kind of the predominant 8-bit platforms. But anyway, I'm going to ramble on about the Spectrum for a moment here because a new game is being released, or indeed has been released, for the Spectrum 128K, and it is very much a style of game and a genre of game, and indeed a title that you would not expect to appear on that platform. And it is yet another excellent homebrew project from the community, really kind of pushing the limits of what these older machines can do. And that is always something that needs to be celebrated, isn't it? So if you aren't aware of this project already, perhaps take a moment, try to guess what it might be. No? It's Street Fighter 2, and they have, of course, released this under the name Sweet Fighting Plus 2, which I really, really do like. I think that is brilliant. Of course, the Street Fighter series is still very much going strong nowadays, and perhaps trying to fly under the radar a bit with this project and not get themselves sued, which is always advisable, I think. But yeah, this is over on zxpresh.itch.io. Of course, this will be linked down below, as per all the other stories I cover in this ramble, just like I always do. Sweet Fighting Plus 2. There's also a video of this in motion, which I will show to you in a second. Choose from 12 legendary fighters and battle your way across the world in a series of one-on-one best-of-3 fights to achieve the glory and title of Sweet Fighting Champion. I love that, Sweet Fighting. Or go head-to-head with your friends in two-player mode. Unofficial homage for the ZX Spectrum 128K, celebrating 35 years of the two-player fighting game which shaped the genre. Please note that this game requires either an original ZX Spectrum 128K computer or suitable emulator to run. And there is indeed some information on here for those of you out there looking to play this either on original hardware or on an emulator, which is nice. We've got full instructions on how to get all of that set up. So you can see from some of these screenshots here, we've got the health bars at the top for the two fighters, left and right, as you might expect, as per the original arcade game. All the names you might recognise. We've got Sagat and Zangief, Blanca, Balrog, Guile, Vega, Chun-Li and Ken. We've basically got all the characters here. M. Bison and Dalsim here, just to round out these screenshots. And the health bars and the names and things at the top of the screen are in colour. They are in red and yellow, as you might expect. But interestingly enough, they've gone with black and white for the actual kind of playfield part itself, the actual action part, which I think is very understandable, of course, for performance reasons. Also for the Spectrum's kind of limited colour palette and stuff. Just keeps things a lot cleaner. And I guess a bit more visually distinct in a game where it's quite important to keep track of what's happening on screen. So I think that's a great choice. I think it looks brilliant, actually. I do think these graphics do look great. And this is, looks like you can control this with the keyboard or the joystick, or basically a combination of the two. You can use the keyboard to select the strength of each attack. Of course, you've got your punches and your kicks and stuff, as you might expect from Sweet Fighting, shall we say. Let's not name the original. And yeah, it looks like the controls are quite involved, as per a lot of these home ports of this particular game. Of course, we had the Atari ST and the Amiga ports of Street Fighter back in the day, playing with the old one-button joystick. Left quite a lot to be desired, didn't it? And quite low frame rates and, not particularly arcade authentic graphics. I played it a lot on the Mega Drive back in the day, and I actually owned it on the Mega Drive. And it was something that always came out whenever I had a friend over, and, we'd always have a go beating each other up in Street Fighter. And I also remember taking it when I was in sixth form, I did take it into school a few times, and there was like a TV in the common room kind of area, and we'd get it hooked up, and between classes and stuff, we'd have like these Street Fighter tournaments on there. That's quite a fond memory from my past. Of course, I'm not that old. The Mega Drive was very much kind of old and retro by that point, but I guess it means I've always been into retro stuff, which should come as no surprise. Anyway, we've got throws here, we've got blocking, we've got keyboard controls as well, as mentioned. We've got the special moves, of course, with some of these characters, Ryu and Ken. We've got the Dragon Punch and Fireball and stuff. We've got E. Honda, Blanca. I'm not going to go through and name every single one of these, but the documentation here is very, very comprehensive. So how to get it set up and loaded up on your Div MMC interface. You can load it from audio cassette or from, of course, from the earphone input on there. And it does talk about reducing load times and some compression and stuff that they are going to be adding in future, which is always welcome with these systems. And under an emulator, couldn't be simpler. You just download the .tap file and you can play it under your emulator. So they have two versions available to download. We've got the Div MMC and emulator version, just the tap file there. And we also have a zipped TZX file there for real-time loading. And not being, deep into the Spectrum emulation world, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure that's useful to someone. And lots of really good feedback in the comments here as well, as you would expect on itch.io, as well as a few bug reports and things. But hey, that's always to be expected. Anyway, I did promise you some video footage of this, so let's just take a quick look of this video in action. We've got the character select here, a bit of an explanation of Ryu and his special moves, and I mean, look at this. I mean, of course, it's not going to be as fast and as fluid as the arcade original. This was kind of one of the fastest, most fluid games on the market at the time when it was released, which is what made it so difficult to kind of port to those home machines. But for the Spectrum, I mean, I know it's the 128K Spectrum, so it is the slightly higher spec version, but come on, I mean, look at this. This is very, very playable indeed, and yeah, it's brilliant. So I think ZX Press has done a fantastic job of this. And if only I had a Spectrum 128K to be able to try this out. May well get it loaded up on my Mister. I know I promise quite a lot to check out these games and I never get around to it, but you never know. This might be the exception. But if nothing else, I am glad that it exists, and hopefully there are a lot of people in the Spectrum community who will get a lot of enjoyment out of this and marvel at the hardware being pushed to its absolute limits. So good job, ZX Press, well done, brilliant project, and if you are looking to give this a try yourself, as mentioned, you'll be able to download it in the comments, in the description, whatever it's called, I don't know, it's Friday, down below. Now, as you may or may not be aware, here on Reese Rambles, we have a somewhat unhealthy obsession with Croc, the 1997 3D platformer for the PlayStation and PC, developed by Argonaut Games. And I was very, very pleased indeed when they recently released a remaster of Croc, a game that I have a weird fondness and affinity for. And that's why I'm going to keep reporting on it every single week. Now, this isn't news about that remaster specifically, but about something secret that has been discovered, buried deep within Croc all of these years, that has only just been unearthed. Exciting stuff. So we're going to head over to timeextension.com. Croc cheat code goes undiscovered for almost 30 years. Just don't expect it to do a great deal. Yeah, I told you this was an exciting story, didn't I? Story here from Damien McFerrin. Croc has been in the news quite a bit recently, and with good reason. Argonaut's 3D platformer got a long overdue re-release on modern systems, giving younger generations a chance to see what all of the fuss is about. What's even more surprising is that a new cheat code for the PS1 version has been found after a whopping 29 years. So this is from an account called Memory Fallen on Twitter. Bo, Low Context Burning Rangers, I have no idea who you are. Also, I tried to click on this to look at the screenshots, and it was just completely broken. And it wasn't anything being blocked my end. I have no idea what's going on, but it's Twitter, so let's not give it any attention. So anyway, here's a cheat code for Croc on the PlayStation that seems to have escaped notice for 29 years. So on the main menu, you can press triangle and select, highlight the new credits item, and press square and circle. And that adds position info to the HUD when you pause and press circle. Now, before you get too excited, continues Damien, this code doesn't unlock any additional content as such. In fact, it doesn't do a great deal at all. It adds positional information to the screen, presumably something that was handy during debugging and development. Still, it's amazing that this secret has remained hidden for almost 30 years. Yeah, slow news day, but I need to get round to playing Croc. I think I'll do like a live stream or something from the studio. Unfortunately, the internet connection isn't brilliant here. It goes over like a microwave link to another building, and then over their connection. I think it's like I don't even know what the speed of their connection is, but it's not great. Unfortunately, I don't have the gigabit connection that I used to have at my old studio. I could stream it from home, I guess, although it's a bit difficult for various other reasons. Maybe I should give it a go. I don't know. I keep saying I want to get back into streaming. Anyway, Croc. I've also been playing a lot of original PlayStation games just lately as well. So maybe I'll check this out. Maybe it will be completely and utterly underwhelming. That's that. Anyway, a debug code that has been discovered for the original Croc on the PlayStation. I'm sure you were going to rush and dig out your original PlayStation so you can check this out for yourself. One project that I have been reporting on quite extensively and also very much enjoying following along with the progress of in the past year has been Reassembler and his rather brilliant port of OutRun to the Amiga. And if you'll recall, he started off with the music, kind of picking apart all the original arcade music and converting it all to an Amiga tracker format, which was very kind of in-depth and involved and very, very clever in and of itself. And then kind of went on to port the rest of the game to the Amiga. Of course, there was an OutRun port on the Amiga back in the day, but much like some of the other home computer ports of the time, it was kind of found to be quite lacking compared to the arcade original. Bit of a recurring theme, I guess, in this week's Ramble. But yeah, that, of course, went on to see a release and was received very, very well by the community, and deservedly so. So this is Amiga OutRun. You can name your own price for it. This is over on itch.io. This isn't the topic of this actual segment. I'm just reminding you that this exists and all of the details, by the way. There is a new development, which I think is absolutely brilliant, but you'll have to wait until the end of this segment to hear about that. Anyway, it is an optimized port of the 1986 arcade game OutRun, and that uses the original 68,000 assembly code to mid-spec Commodore Amiga computers. I seem to recall the original arcade version of OutRun used two 68,000 CPUs working in parallel, along with some specialised sound hardware and stuff. So, of course, porting it to the Amiga, which just had a single 68,000 CPU, although it did have, very capable sound and graphics hardware on board. And of course, trying to squeeze it down into something that was basically half the spec of the original and keep it looking all authentic. Is a huge task and something that Assembler has very much kind of pulled off. Reassembler, sorry. Anyway, let's get back to the description. While small compromises have been made to accommodate differences between the arcade hardware and the Amiga, this looks and plays almost identical to the original, and I can assure you that it does. It is brilliant. It's not an emulator. It's not based on Cannonball, MAME, or any existing projects. It's a ground-up rewrite in Assembler with a focus on performance. So you need to get the arcade ROMs to be able to get this loaded up to extract the original graphic and audio data. Of course, they can't be distributed with this release, but it does indeed use the original graphics and audio data. That is how authentic it is. And it comes with a Python script to be able to convert all of that. Now, this doesn't run on a stock Amiga. You do need to be accelerated. Basically, a 12,000 with the Terrible Fire TF1230, or indeed the Blizzard accelerator with the FPU, which is 25% faster than the Terrible Fire. But by and large, I think we'll let that slide. Everyone's playing around with these accelerators and things in this day and age, and it's just interesting to see how far the hardware can be pushed. Now, getting around to the actual kind of crux of this story, I started off by talking about the soundtrack and about all the work that had gone into getting it all converted to Amiga tracker format, and just how amazing it sounds on this particular Amiga release of OutRun. And so much so that if you wish to own a physical copy of that soundtrack, now you can, because this is actually being released on vinyl. There's going to be a limited run of vinyl of the OutRun Amiga edition soundtrack. And this looks and sounds absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to shut up for a second and I'm going to actually play this to you off the back of my success of capturing audio last week. So let's give this a listen. And that, quite frankly, is brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I love the artwork on there. I love the music. It sounds very authentic, but of course it does have its own kind of Amiga flavour to it, I guess. And again, my hat is off to you, Reassembler. This is great. And as you know, as someone who has kind of recently got back into buying vinyl, and I bought quite a decent record player and stuff. Yeah, this is very much up my street. So very cool to see. As we can see from the description here, it is on red and blue vinyl embedded with glitter. For the benefit of those of you who are listening to this on your podcast platforms and didn't get to see the video, the artwork is absolutely beautiful. Original and exclusive cover art. It all looks kind of hand-painted and very much in the style of the original kind of arcade game marketing and, the artwork on the cabinets and stuff. This could very well be an official release. So you can go and pick this up over on Bandcamp. This is reassembler.bandcamp.com, the Starburst Glitter 12-inch vinyl. It's £25, which, to be fair, for a very kind of low-run, very specialist thing, and the fact that it's that red and blue vinyl with the glitter and stuff, I think that is a bloody brilliant price. I don't understand how they've managed to do it at such a, such a good price, but there you go. The Amiga OutRun soundtrack, 4 channels of glorious 8-bit mod music, fully reassembled and recomposed from scratch. Pressed on translucent red and blue Starburst vinyl embedded with glitter. Full colour sleeve featuring original artwork by Sam Miller. Limited edition foil numbering, DJ friendly, mastered loud at 45 RPM. That's what we like to see, mastered loud. DJ friendly, that kind of raises the prospect of people kind of dropping this into some vinyl DJ sets and stuff as well, doesn't it? Yeah, I like that. That's good. And the original Pro Tracker mod files are also included in the digital download. Limited edition, once they're gone, they're gone. And you can also, it also includes unlimited streaming of the OutRun Amiga edition via the free Bandcamp app and a high quality download in MP3, FLAC and more. So yeah, as mentioned, the vinyl is £25, or you can buy a digital version if you want to give this a listen, or indeed just kind of throw some money the developer's way and kind of show your support. It is £3 for the digital version, and you can blast that in the car. If you are lucky enough perhaps to own a Ferrari Testarossa, I don't think there's anything more appropriate you could listen to. And yeah, just great that people are kind of, what's this? There's a black test press, 12-inch, oh, they're sold out. Oh, only 3 of these available, handwritten label. There you go, that's for the true fans. So that was released a week ago on March the 6th. It doesn't say how many are available or indeed how many are left. So if you are looking to get one of these, I would jump on one as quickly as possible. I do own some game soundtrack vinyls. I've got like Undertale and a few other ones. And I think I'm going to pick this up, you know. I think I'm going to grab one right now before I upload the Ramble and they all sell out. Anyway, reassembler.bandcamp.com. Do check out the soundtrack and pick one up for yourself. And yeah, go and check out the port of OutRun to the Amiga if you own an accelerated Amiga and you haven't checked that out already, because it is bloody brilliant. We all come together here on Reese Rambles every week to, among other things, celebrate the rich cultural history of gaming. Of course, one of the most important entertainment industries in the world. I think it is actually the biggest by revenue, and I think, to be honest, up there with cinema and books and music and some of the most important kind of creative output that the human race has ever produced. I don't think I am overstating it by saying that. Gaming is very, very important and something that people are thankfully starting to realise as well. And a big part of that is preserving that history for future generations to learn from, not just so people can play the games. I know it is often used as a bit of an excuse for piracy and whatnot, and it is an industry and it does have to make money. I do acknowledge that, but once stuff gets to a certain age, the original developers have disbanded and, these games aren't available anymore. I think it's very important that they are made available for people to kind of study and to learn from, and also to enjoy as well. I mean, that's why they're created in the first place, kind of by and large. Why am I even arguing? I'm preaching to the choir here, aren't I? There has been a very big development, and this has been the talk of Blue Sky this week. If you are over on Blue Sky on that social network, I keep seeing this game popping up. I'd never heard of it before, but this is a really, really big deal. And the more I dig into it, the more interesting it looks. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about when I'm saying that this stuff is culturally important. and stuff that I wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise, and wouldn't have been kind of made aware of. So let's have a look at some gameplay first. This is a game called Cookie's Bustle, and it was released in 1999. It's a Japanese game. It's an adventure game, and it's kind of centers around this character called Cookie, who is some kind of anthropomorphic bear type creature. And it looks like it's kind of using a combination of kind of 3D rendered things and, like a Donkey Kong Country style, I guess, with like kind of 2D sprites that were kind of 3D rendered, if that makes sense. Just trying to describe it for the benefit of our audio listeners. And by all accounts, this game is, very, very varied and interesting gameplay. It kind of pulls together a lot of different genres and things, and apparently does that very, very well indeed. And this is a game that is basically completely unheard of outside of Japan. Now, watching this long play here from Sebmao, this was 9 days ago, and there is a very good reason that this was uploaded so recently for a game from 99, and that is a point that I'm going to get to in a second. But according to this long play video from Bombo, which is Sebmao, this for a start, the long play is 3.5 hours long, so that kind of gives you an indication as to the length of the game. I'm guessing this is somebody who is intimately familiar with this game and actually knows what to do, which is probably quite helpful. But also, if you scroll down to the comments, there is a English fan translation of the game as well. So, you don't have to play it in the original Japanese. And again, another important thing for game preservation, people having access to the files and being able to kind of translate this stuff and make it available to new audiences. Now, the reason that this upload is so recent, and the reason that everybody has suddenly started talking about this game, is because up until quite recently, you couldn't talk about this game. Any kind of online mention of it was getting taken down by a very, very aggressive copyright troll. And I'm very pleased to say that our good friends at the Video Game History Foundation have taken this troll on. They've, faced off with them and finally resolved this situation. So, we've freed Cookie's Bustle from copyright hell. Here's how. And there's an awful lot of reading here. So if you're looking for a very, very interesting and in-depth article to read, not only about this game itself, but also about copyright trolls and how kind of takedowns and DMCA and all that stuff affects game preservation and affects the gaming industry, this is a really, really great article. So if you're looking for something to read on your commute or whatever, of course it will be linked down below. But we'll just take a quick skim of this. So the subheading here, we've stopped a persistent copyright troll who was trying to impede our work. Here's everything we learned and how we beat them, by Phil Salvador. There's nothing quite like Cookie's Bustle, a computer game released by Japanese developer Rodic in 1999. The game has built a cult reputation over the last few years because of its unusual genre-defying content, which is too complicated and confusing to summarize accurately in one sentence. But we'll try anyway. You play it as a 5-year-old girl from New Jersey who enters an international sports competition that becomes engulfed in civil war and intergalactic intrigue. A few years ago, the Video Game History Foundation was donated a rare physical copy of Cookie's Bustle by multimedia researcher Misty DeMeo. We are excited to preserve this rare and artistically unique game as part of our collections. Because Cookie's Bustle has been out of print for nearly 3 decades, we documented the packaging and physical materials of the game in our digital archive for research purposes. Since we are unable to share controlled research access to the game itself, we've also provided access to a video demonstrating the gameplay of Cookie's Bustle, recorded by community member Sebmao. We hope these resources are valuable for researchers who want to understand more about this remarkable game. We have a screenshot here of some kind of intergalactic diner, a typically mysterious scene from Cookie's Bustle, taken from the long play video in our digital archive. Indeed, the video that I was just showing to you. Unfortunately, our efforts to document Cookie's Bustle were impacted by the actions of an aggressive copyright troll. An individual going by Brandon White, or using the corporate name Graceware SL, has repeatedly sent DMCA takedown notices to the Video Game History Foundation via the trade association Yuki, over our legal use of materials related to Cookies Bustle. We are not alone in this problem. Since 2022, a number of websites and individual creators have received frivolous takedown requests on behalf of Graceware, covering everything from Let's Play videos to fan art to simply mentioning the title of the game. Seems to be some kind of low-flying aircraft flying over the studio at the moment. I do apologise. Although Graceware's actions against us were incredibly disruptive, we saw this as an opportunity to get to the bottom of what was happening. We looked into it with our legal team, and we do not believe there is any proof that Brandon White actually owns Cookies Bustle. He has never been able to produce legally meaningful evidence that he owns any enforceable rights to any part of this game. We are happy to report that after bringing these facts to Yuki's attention, Yuki has suspended takedowns for Cookies Bustle on behalf of Graceware SL. This is a big victory for the gaming community, hopefully bringing an end to a rights squatting campaign that has dragged on for years. In consultation with our counsel, Albert Sellers LLP, we've decided to share everything we learned about the rights to Cookies Bustle and White's actions. We hope that documenting the facts of this situation will prevent further abuses of copyright law and empower creators to stand up for their rights. Wonderful, wonderful work by the Video Game History Foundation. This is why they exist. This is what they do best. And it just goes to show that this was an orphan work. The status of Rodic and the ownership of its rights are currently unclear. And it just goes to show, just kind of goes into detail to explain why Brandon White definitely isn't the copyright owner of this game. I'm not quite sure who is, but we can certainly prove beyond all reasonable doubt that he isn't, and why he has been abusing this position. There's so much here. There are scans of legal documents and all sorts of kind of previous cases and stuff, case law and things around this game and around kind of other related things. This is a proper in-depth legal case and a very, very detailed documentation of the steps that they've taken over on their website here, and some of the previous takedowns and things as well. So if you are interested in this, and I am very much interested in this, I have given this a read. Please do go and check it out, because not only has it introduced me to an absolutely fascinating looking game that I wasn't aware of previously, but also it's a really good kind of in-depth explanation of how this whole process works and how you can fight back against these people effectively. Unfortunately, it is rather a lot of work, and I guess rather a lot of kind of legal bills and things as well. Just to prove that one person is very much in the wrong for the good of the community at large. But glad that we have people like this who are kind of fighting our corner. And my hat is off to you. My hat. There's a reason I don't wear a hat in Reese Rambles, because I'm constantly taking it off to everyone. Don't even have a chance to put it on. Anyway, good work, Video Game History Foundation, as always. And I would very much like to check out Cookies Bustle. It does look like quite a fascinating game. I just don't have time to play games nowadays, do I? But if you've played it, let me know. I'd be quite interested to hear what it's all about. Rather interesting story next, as it is kind of the intersection of various different topics that I have been talking about quite a lot in recent rambles. Stuff like game preservation, which of course I do talk about a lot. Gaming on Linux, Bazite, that kind of thing, a really big topic for me at the moment. And also AI, these agentic software development tools, and something that has had, I will say, quite a big impact on my day job as well. Tools that I've actually had to kind of get involved with and learn to use, if only because it is such a threat to my day job and to this industry. And you've either got to know how they work, or you can fight it all you like, but I don't know. I mean, I have come under some criticism in the past and had some downvotes and things on my rambles and stuff for coming across as talking positively about it, or at least admitting that I have experimented with this stuff. I'm just being honest. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. But anyway, that's not really relevant here. So one thing that I have covered in the past is a tool called Lutris, which comes bundled with Bazite. That's Linux-based gaming operating system. So this is the specific video that I was thinking of when this topic came up: Bazite versus my boxed 1990s PC games. And what this is a tool called Lutris, which It's a collection of scripts. So essentially, you can take your you can buy these old kind of DOS and Windows games from GOG.com or from Steam, or indeed you can go and download them from abandonware sites if they are abandonware. And also, if you own the original discs for a lot of these games, the original CDs and things, you can also install those using Lutris. And these scripts make it very, very easy. They set up all the kind of compatibility layers, the emulation side of things, and create the shortcuts and even kind of dump the contents of the CD if necessary or whatever. And it's just very seamless. And a lot of these are games that are very difficult to get working under modern Windows, even though they were designed for Windows in the first place, 30 years ago. And now they are running, completely seamlessly and easily using a kind of wizard-based setup process under Linux, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. This still blows me away as someone who's been using Linux for a very long time and obviously are well aware of its kind of history with gaming, or complete and utter lack of, and how it is really kind of coming into its own, particularly with Windows 11 being so bloody annoying nowadays, which is something you will see in an upcoming video that I'm working on. But anyway, that's by the by. That's just kind of a bit of an introduction to Lutris and what it does. If you haven't seen that video, please do go and watch that video. Go and watch my main channel videos. They're great. But yeah, this is to do with Claude, to do with AI development tools. You rather than having to sit and write code, which is, as a developer in my day job, something that I've been doing for, 20 years now, you can literally just tell Claude to do it. You can say, Claude, make me a website that does this, and then it will spit something out. And inevitably, it will be really rough around the edges and broken in various ways and a huge amount of work to go through and fix at the moment. But these tools are getting better all the time, and bits of them are starting to kind of seep through into other projects, into commercial projects, and also open source projects. And there are an awful lot of people out there, quite rightly, who have some very strong objections to these new tools for various reasons, which I won't go into here. And this has sadly reared its ugly head this week when it comes to Lutris, which was otherwise a very kind of well known and respected and loved tool in the game preservation community. So, getting to the point, this is the story over on gamingonlinux.com. Lutris now being built with Claude AI. Developer decides to hide it after backlash. And I think that's the important crux of this story. So, story here by Liam Dorr, gamingonlinux.com. As mentioned, there's a bit of drama going on with the popular game manager Lutris right now, with users pointing out the developer using AI-generated code via Anthropic's Claude. Seems like something relevant to talk about, with AI tools being a huge cause of problems in the hardware industry. Like how the Steam Deck is constantly sold out and Valve can't even give us a price or release date of their upcoming hardware. And all because these AI companies are sucking up all component manufacturing for their data centers. Every extra person using all these AI tools is only adding to the issue. So evidently Liam has some very strong objections here. And for very good reason. That's another big problem with this AI stuff, of course. Or LLMs, I'm not really sure. I know AI is kind of the popular usage of the word, and that's kind of what's caught on. So that's why I would describe it as that. But of course, these are LLMs and kind of agentic development tools. But we see the real life effect of that in RAM prices, hard drive prices. This is such a kind of gold rush at the moment, such a bubble, that these AI companies are buying up all of the hardware, and that means there's nothing left for us consumers, which is having a massive impact on kind of day-to-day computer users. Anyway, a user asked on the official Lutris GitHub 2 weeks ago, is Lutris slop now? And noted an increasing amount of LLM-generated commits. To which the Lutris creator replied, it's only slop if you don't know what you're doing and or are using low-quality tools, but I have over 30 years of programming experience and use the best tool currently available. It was tremendously helpful in helping me catch up with everything I wasn't able to do last year because of health issues/depression. There are massive issues with AI tech, but those are caused by our current capitalist culture, not the tools themselves. In many ways, it couldn't have been implemented in a worse way, but it was AI that bought all the RAM, It was OpenAI. It was not AI that stole copyrighted content. It was Facebook. It wasn't AI that laid off thousands of employees. It's deluded executives who don't understand that this tool is an augmentation, not a replacement for humans. I'm not a big fan of having to pay a monthly sub to Anthropic, the makers of Claude. I don't like depending on cloud services. But a few months ago, and I was pretty much at my lowest back then, barely able to do anything, I realised that this stuff was starting to do a competent job and was very valuable. And at least I'm not paying Google, Facebook, OpenAI, or some company that cooperates with the US Army. Anyway, I was suspecting that this issue might come up, so I've removed the Claude co-authorship from the commits a few days ago. So good luck figuring out what's generated and what is not. Whether or not I use Claude is not going to change society. This requires changes at a deeper level, and we all know that nothing is going to improve with the current US administration. There is an awful lot to unpack there, isn't there? The issue being that evidently the creator of Lutris, it doesn't actually mention the name here, so apologies, but was going through a bit of a low point, a bit of having some health issues and some depression and stuff. Had stopped writing code, and obviously that was kind of adding to the whole thing, and discovered Anthropic's Claude, used it to kind of write some bits and pieces of code and kind of kickstart the project again and get the ball rolling again. And is using the argument that, hey, Anthropic, they pushed back against the US government. They lost the Pentagon contract, and then now there's all this other wider stuff going on with them about them being blacklisted by the government and stuff, being seen as a bit of a hero standing up to the Trump administration and whatnot. I really, really hate getting involved with politics here on Reese Rambles, but it is an important part of this story. And hey, at least I'm not giving money to Google and Facebook and OpenAI. And am I even going to attempt to give my commentary and my opinions on this? Like I say, I am familiar with Claude. I have used it for bits and pieces in my day job, if only to get myself familiar with it. It seems the developer here was trying to be transparent and actually kind of give Claude co-authorship on some of the bits and pieces of code that he had used that tool for, which I guess is kind of to be applauded. A lot of people are using these things and trying to take credit for it all themselves. The whole thing is built on kind of training itself on other people's code that's out there, that, of course, a lot of open source stuff that people have done as volunteers and not been paid for, and kind of taken that work, and it's also taking work from those people. There's that argument as well. There's the data centers, the power consumption, and the insane amount of water that... Anyway, if you are one of these people who is very strongly kind of against these things, Lutris is now very much a project that I guess you're going to have to choose to avoid, unfortunately, because it is such a great project. But I get it. And this is increasingly becoming a thing that we're having to navigate in the industry, and certainly in the kind of game development and game preservation community. So something to be aware of, and I think actually a very important kind of new talking point in this ongoing debate. So I couldn't let this one pass me by. Let me know what you think. Yep, it's time. Time once more to talk about Doom. The Doom Shrine behind me, as always, my collection of Doom-related releases and paraphernalia, all the way from the original shareware version that came with our very first PC in 1994. I've got the boxed copy that you had to actually send off for back in the day. That's very, very rare and kind of one of the pride of my collection, I guess, and everything up to kind of the latest Doom Eternal type stuff. We don't talk about Doom the Dark Ages. I do still need to check that out. I have heard some quite good things about that. But anyway, enough about me and enough about my Doom collection. Of course, Doom, one of the most important games in gaming history, I think it is fair to say. And certainly, I think my favourite game ever made. I think that's also a pretty fair assessment, actually, although I don't like to kind of pick favourites and let myself be kind of pinned down on these things. But we will say that for the sake of argument, because I do talk about it an awful lot and do feature it in my videos an awful lot. So I guess that speaks for itself. Anyway, every week, someone within the Doom community surprises us by getting the game to run on yet another weird and wonderful device. Of course, I have contributed to that myself in the past. I've run it on the desk PC that you see here, which, fair enough, is just a PC built into a desk, so that's not really much of an achievement. And I did also, of course, recently run it on a cream cake machine, an industrial cream cake manufacturing machine. And as some pointed out to me at the time, it was just a standard PC that happened to be hooked up to a very big and elaborate and expensive piece of machinery. But you know what? I've got to work with what I've got. But in this case, this is someone who has actually ported the game to a brand new platform and has integrated it in a very interesting way, which actually plays to the strengths of that particular platform and is, very much kind of in the spirit of what it's all about. So, without further ado, this is on frank.dev, Frenck.dev, and this is Home Assistant. So can Home Assistant run Doom? It started with a Doom t-shirt and a meetup. The real question, can Home Assistant run Doom? 2 hours later, I had a fully working Doom integration for Home Assistant and was fighting demons on my smart home dashboard. And this is a developer going by the name of Frank Nijhoff. I believe that's pronounced. Apologies if I have messed that up, as always. But for a start, just an introduction to Home Assistant itself for those of us who aren't familiar. It's not something I've, obviously I'm aware of it, but not something I've ever actually used myself. And it's an open source home automation platform. So you can use this to control all of your heating, lighting, CCTV. We've got automated window shutters and things on this example here, monitoring things like your fridge and your freezer, your EV charging, all of that kind of stuff. Like, I guess, obviously solar power, that kind of thing. Anything you kind of want to integrate into it for a complete home automation system. And it's all open source, which is really cool. And yeah, what this developer has done is ported Doom to it in a very nice kind of Home Assistant-y integrated way. So, I want to build Doom, the game, as a card for Home Assistant dashboard. I want the original Doom game to be playable inside Home Assistant that way. This needs to be distributed as a custom component, so don't build it into Home Assistant directly. Let's build a repo inside the Doom folder. The card needs to be configurable from the UI, no fiddling with YAML or YAML, and will be distributed through HACS. We can use the repository. There's a good example to set it up, and I want it to run the original Doom game, not a recreation. So that was basically the spec for the project, and 2 hours later, they indeed had it all integrated and all working, and we can see a bit of a screenshot of it here. There's also a video of this working a bit further down. The original Doom.exe inside Home Assistant. And it is the shareware version, the shareware episode, which I think is actually the best episode of Doom anyway. And we have, what's this? We've got a bit of a video of this working here as well. So as we can see, we have the usual Home Assistant tabs down the left-hand side, obviously energy, activity monitoring, all of that stuff, your to-do lists and things. We've got their music playback, so they're listening to Connected by the stereo MCs while they're playing Doom. Great choice of tune, that. And as we can see, it runs very, very smoothly, very kind of natively. And just a fun little project, isn't it? However, he goes on to explain, if it runs in Home Assistant, it should behave like Home Assistant. So, Home Assistant revolves around devices, entities, and their state. Lights, switches, sensors, everything participates in the same model. Automations react to changes in state. So, if Doom runs inside Home Assistant, it shouldn't just be a gimmick. See, this is what I should have done with the cake machine. I should have actually had it so, every time you shoot a demon, it pops out a cake. Or something. Obviously, I couldn't do that because there wasn't any power on in the factory and all the machinery was kind of half demolished and hadn't been used in 6 years. But anyway, so the custom component exposes a full set of entities under a single Doom device. There's a binary sensor that tracks whether someone is actively playing. The game sends a heartbeat signal while the game runs, and if the heartbeat stops for more than 3 seconds, the sensor flips to off. So we've got on, which is ripping and tearing, and off, which is dormant. It also tracks who is playing, how long the current session has been running, total accumulated playtime across all sessions, and how many sessions have been played, and when the last session ended. And that is all persisted across restarts. So as we can see here, Doom has its own card, I believe, in the Home Assistant terminology. And we've got all the kind of integrations and automations and activity and stuff associated with that. There's also an enum sensor that rotates once per day, picking from a pool of 46 Doom facts, development trivia, lore snippets, and classic quotes. And there is an Easter egg, so you just type IDDQD, which of course is one of the cheats from Doom, anywhere in Home Assistant, and a Doom dialog pops up, letting you play immediately. No dashboard card required, God mode activated. Is any of this useful? Not really, writes the developer, but once Doom becomes part of the state machine, it becomes automatable. So, you can turn your office lights hellish red when Doom starts, restore your previous lighting scene when it stops. You can have your daily Doom fact on a wall tablet. You can announce who just started a Doom session, track your household's total demon slaying hours, and trigger a playful notification. Completely unnecessary, technically clean, very Home Assistant. So there you go. And there's it's really interesting. I mean, obviously I have read a few bits of this article just here, but quite an interesting article just explaining, how all of this was achieved and why. And I like it. I like it a lot. I think it was quite light-hearted. It's a 5-minute read. Very kind of playful writing style and something nice and light and cheerful, which is what we all need in this day and age. So yeah, Frank Nyhoff. Again, I'm not going to say it, but yeah, brilliant job, porting Doom to Home Assistant. And you can go and install that yourself on your very own Home Assistant, if you like. And you can stand there in the middle of your kitchen on your tablet playing Doom rather than doing whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. Great job. And that, my dearest ramblers, brings us around rather neatly to my regular Videos of the Week feature, wherein I feature a video, or indeed videos, that I have watched here on the old YouTubes in the past week that have entertained, enlightened, educated, or otherwise improved my life in some small way. Quite often they are tech-related, quite often they aren't. Often there's just one, and often there's more than one. And I will say that this week's have been a bit of a mixed bag. I've been watching some quite interesting stuff over the past week, and perhaps not my normal stuff, but maybe some stuff that might be expected based on my recent activity, if you are one of those people who follows my life in intimate detail for some reason. Anyway, let's get started with our first video, and this is Mac84. I love this channel. I love Mac84 so much. Really, really great coverage of classic Mac stuff. And even if you're not from that background, I mean, I've owned a couple of Macs and things over the years. I do currently use a Mac as my kind of main daily driver, but just fascinating to learn about the history and see people kind of doing practical things with these old machines, stuff that I hadn't considered before. And indeed, like Action Retro, for example, which I know I do talk about quite a lot. From what I gather, these guys are good friends in real life and do cover quite similar stuff. Anyway, enough about Mac84. This is about the Pico IDE, which I recently released a review of, along with Phil's Computer Lab and LGR were the other two channels that had covered it at the time. A few other reviews are kind of starting to come out of the woodwork, and Mac84 was one of those people. And his angle on this is, of course, completely different to the other ones that I have seen so far because of that kind of Mac side of things. So he tests it here with the Quadra series, the G3 and the G4, and covers some aspects of this that I perhaps hadn't considered myself, obviously not coming from that background. It's a really nice, really well-made video. If you are quite excited about the Pico IDE, and you should be, because it is brilliant, here's another video to kind of whet your appetite and to show you a bit more of a kind of side of it that those of us who had covered it so far perhaps didn't cover. Also, he's a lovely chap. He comes across really well on camera, and his videos are all really interesting. So if you're not subscribed to Mac84, while you are over there watching this video, please do subscribe to his channel and watch some of his other stuff. So that is 16 minutes, 34 seconds long. Pico IDE, a new CD and hard drive emulator for PCs and Macs. Or Macs and PCs. Not quite sure why I read that the wrong way around. Anyway, that's my first video of the week. And moving on to my second video of the week, this is a channel that I have talked about before, and it is one that I watch quite a lot. When I am chilling, sitting back at home and just kind of want to pick something random on YouTube to watch, I quite often, just watch the latest video from this guy, no matter what it's about. Random Gaming in HD. And this video is a little bit different to his usual stuff. He usually does some quite in-depth benchmarks and things and kind of talks about the history of graphics cards and that kind of stuff. This is a lot more kind of laid back, a lot more relaxed, and it's a bit of a personal story of how he recently picked up an Xbox 360, secondhand, very, very inexpensively, and a load of old games, and he just basically sits and kind of goes through some of his favourites from those games. And this generation of consoles, I think, is very interesting because, of course, it was the first that was kind of fully online, fully integrated, but at the same time also the last of the generation that you could play fully offline. And he does talk a bit in this video about how a lot of the kind of Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era of stuff, the servers are kind of offline for a lot of those games, and the updates, we're kind of right at the very tail end of being able to get updates and things for these, at least legitimately anyway. Of course, these consoles can all be kind of modded and stuff. And yeah, he just talks about how easy it is just to stick the disc in the drive, fire up the game, and just play it without having to sit around waiting for updates and all the other rubbish that we get with modern consoles. And of course, they are HD. He does talk a bit about how the best way to play the Xbox 360 is in 720p because most of the games on that platform were rendered internally at that resolution, so basically outputting at its native resolution, letting your TV handle the upscaling, all of that stuff. So there is some quite useful technical information in here as well. And he also talks a bit about frame rates and that kind of thing as well, as you might expect from random gaming in HD. But as someone who had a 360, and it was a very big part of my life at the time, I thought this video was very nostalgic. I thought it was very, informative. And if you're, if it was a console that passed you by back in the day and perhaps you're interested in picking one up for next to nothing, now is the time to do it. And this is a great introduction to what it's all about, how to get it all set up. And of course, there are some recommendations for some games as well. So, rather a lot to take away from this video. Only 7 minutes and 4 seconds long, so it's a very quick and easy watch. Chilling with my cheap Xbox 360 on a Sunday morning in 2026 from Random Gaming in HD. 151,000 views as well, so evidently this one has gone down very well with the community. Some really great comments and things on this video. So next up, what is this one? Oh yeah, this is a bit of a follow-up to something, to a previous video of the week of mine, actually, from last week. I mentioned the Gorillaz and how they'd released a new music video that was all kind of 2D and hand-drawn, hand-painted, and how it was kind of bringing back a style of animation that, hasn't been a thing for quite a while, of course, with like the big studios, Disney and the like, all kind of turn into CG and things. Now, this guy was actually an animator for Disney back in the day, a guy called John Pomeroy, and he runs an animation, like an online animation school called Pomeroy Art Academy. This came up on my recommendations on my homepage, I guess because I'd watched this music video. And he goes over it and basically picks out some of his favourite things, talks about some of the bits that, he's particularly enamoured with the backgrounds and things, and quite rightly so. Talks about that Jungle Book influence as well, oddly, which obviously I'd also kind of picked up on. And like the character design and how perhaps he would have done things differently, and how, big studios like Disney might have approached it slightly differently back in the day. I just thought it was really interesting. I really like the music video. I like what it represents, and seeing someone who is actually an expert on this stuff kind of pick it apart and talk about it, I just kind of thought added to the whole thing. So I thought I would let you all know about this video. This is, I haven't seen anything like this in 50 years, by Pomeroy Art Academy. It's 6 minutes, 37 seconds long, so it isn't a long video. But he did kind of point out a few of the kind of finer moments and things from this music video, and kind of things to look out for, how they might have been quite challenging for the animators, and the bits that they've kind of put a bit of effort into. So yeah, interesting and a bit different. And while we are talking about videos that are a bit different, this next one is completely different, but it's something that I've started to become quite interested in just lately, and I wanted to take you on that journey as well. Because why not? This is interior design for boys by a channel called Speed. I say Speed because it's the word speed with 3 E's. I have no idea who this guy is. I've never watched any of his videos in the past, but I have been watching some interior design stuff just lately. I'm going to be buying a house at some point in the future, life circumstances are all starting to converge to the point where that is starting to look quite realistic, which is good. Obviously, I do currently own a house, but that's all. We won't talk about my personal life in this ramble. He talks about this book, the Interior Design Handbook, which I actually bought off the back of this video. And I was actually sat reading this with a nice glass of wine last night and very much got into it. It talks about proportions and about lighting and layering and, about space and about how people move through space and about... even some stuff from like photography and filmmaking and stuff about composition and, about that kind of thing that I thought was really interesting. But this video is a great introduction to it. He basically picks some of his favourite points from the book and tries to kind of sum it all up into one 23-minute, 19-second video. It's a very well-made video. I like the way that it's presented. It's been very well researched. It's got some really great kind of graphics and things to illustrate the points. This is a 2.1 million subscriber channel, so evidently it does have quite a lot of kind of production and stuff behind it. And it was just kind of a bit of a rabbit hole into a new book and a whole new world for me that I thought was quite fascinating. And obviously, of course, with the filmmaking and angle and stuff, and the lighting and the composition stuff as well, it all kind of clicked in my brain. So something a little bit different, a bit of interior design advice, interior design for boys. Of course, it doesn't just apply to boys. It's not intended to be sexist or anything like that. Just kind of acknowledging the fact that, perhaps it's not been traditional for men to kind of take an interest in this kind of stuff. And why not? Why not? This channel mainly seems to cover car stuff, but they have also branched out into some other kind of rather interesting kind of niche topics and odd tangents and things, just kind of browsing through their video history. So, that's Interior Design for Boys by Speed. If you are interested in that, I thought it was quite an interesting video, bit of a diversion, bit of a distraction from the usual retro stuff. 23 minutes and 19 seconds. And of course, all of my videos of the week for this week will be linked down below in the description for your perusal. Now, that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble, so thank you ever so much for joining me. These go out every week at 2 minutes to midnight on a Friday night UK time, just in time for the weekend. They are released on my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/ReeseRambles, and also on all of the podcast platforms. So I push it out to Spotify, and then there's like a RSS feed that all the other platforms pick up, and it goes off across the internet somehow in some kind of magical way. I will be appearing on another podcast next week. I will try to put a ramble out as well, but I am recording with another big name podcast. Am I going to reveal who it is? Am I going to talk about it here? No, you know what? I'll keep that as a surprise. But it is one that I've appeared on in the past, and they are very good friends of mine and a bunch of thoroughly decent chaps. And it's been a long time since I've had a chance to have a catch up with them. So, looking forward to appearing on that specific retro podcast next week, so I will see you there. But in the meantime, of course, I'll see you here on Reese Rambles and perhaps even on my main channel if I get that video done that I'm working on at the moment. But enjoy the rest of your weekend. Big thank you, as always, to my Discord community. Apparently, I didn't do a great job of advertising my Discord last week by giving people the impression that it was all about politics and stuff, which it is very much not. But yeah, some names here that I have taken a note of. Sozzled, Steve's Tech Shed, Garrow, Bard, Vanessa, Suze, Timberwolf, Technic, Flibblsan, and of course our very good German friend Manimo. As always, so thank you to all of you people and indeed everyone else who is discussing stuff over there. You are more than welcome to come and join them. There is a link down below in the description to join the Discord server. Absolutely not mandatory at all. If you want to email me instead or whatever, there are various different ways to contact me. But that's it. That's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. I'm going to go away and download all the footage from my camera, perhaps have a few more of these rather nice hobnobs, and enjoy the rest of my weekend. So that's that. All the best for the weekend, and I'll see you same time and place next week, hopefully. Bye.